Okay, hello, this is Ahmed Ragab from the Academic Professional Training. How are you? Okay, today we're going to talk about the second part of the reading. Now, the first part was with Mr. Mithat when he talked about first part. He talked about some skills like to read. So now let's talk about how actually to solve exams. Today we're going to solve exams and to have some things. Okay. Now, first of all, let's start by some tips. Now, so let's ask first. Now, always people they have this problem that they have a problem with the reading. Why? Because in the reading they keep on reading the whole passage, then after that, like they consume the whole time in reading, then they don't have time to finish the question. And that's the thing. So they don't have time to finish questions, and they finish all the time in just reading the passage. Okay, so how can we solve this problem? That's a good question. Now, we can solve this problem by knowing the strategic things, the strategic ways of reading. How again? Now, in the reading, in the exam, the TOEFL exam is not just about solving the whole exam, as it's about solving correct questions in, yes, limited time. Okay, let's start by like the strategy things. Okay, so we will talk about the strategies of reading. That's very nice. Okay, now let's talk about the strategy of reading. One, preview. Now, before starting and talking about number one and the preview and everything, it's loading. Okay. Okay, so no problem, no technical problem, but we're done. Now, so we said we will talk about some reading strategies. Now, let's review some things, like some other things that Mr. Mithat has talked about. Let's talk about them and let's review some of them. Now, in the beginning, we said in the reading, this reading you're doing for a purpose of understanding. He needs to measure your understanding. So do you understand this reading or not? That's the question. This is not about like to get more information or something like that. No, it's about understanding. So like research shows that it's easier to understand and get to know the main idea than reading the whole passage. So understand the general idea. What is this passage talking about? That's the normal thing. So what is this passage talk about? Like now, so let's think about it like this. Now, this passage is talking about Pepsi Cola or something like that. So Pepsi, it's a trend. Okay, it's brand, one of the brands. Okay, so when I start like reading that thing, okay, now, okay, what's that? I read about Pepsi, new information and other things. Now, are going to be helpful to me, but are they going to be helpful in scoring in the exam? That's the good question. That's the question that you should ask yourself. what is the purpose of me taking this exam, the TOEFL exam? Now, the TOEFL exam is to measure and assess myself, and actually show the other people how good is my English. That's the idea. So this is the idea of the TOEFL exam. So in the TOEFL exam, we use it in like assisting ourselves. Okay? Now, okay, so we assist ourselves through the TOEFL. Then what? Yes. Then we have to pay attention that like some companies, they ask for high scores because they need to make sure that you can actually speak English in a correct way. Now, as I hear the prayer. Okay, so we will start again after that prayer. Okay, be right back. The prayer. Now, before we go for the prayer, we were talking about some things about the reading. Now, we said that it's easier to understand what's in the reading, the general idea of the reading, not to actually study the whole thing about the reading. Now, don't try to read the information that I said. Like, don't try to be distracted by the new information that you're getting. No. Okay. The purpose here is to assist you, not to try to get more information or something like that. Okay. Now, let's go next. Now, okay. So that's important. Now, you have to pay attention. Sometimes, like in reading, we read for scanning. Scanning, that means I read and I look for something. Sometimes I skim. That means I read I don't focus. I just read parts of the thing. Now, so that's the difference between reading for details, if I want details, or I want the general idea from that thing. So look at the titles, look at the headings, look at subheadings, and any word bold in printed or italic. Italics, that means it's leaning, and bold, that means it's thicker. Look for them. Look at them carefully. Why? Because these words are the words that they actually ask questions about. So that's the idea. The idea here, you need to try to focus on these words to gain as many scores as you want. Any scores as you want. Now, so if I want to understand this better, let's talk about some strategic. Now first, I read the first sentence and the second sentence. So let's imagine a paragraph, any paragraph. So let's see on this picture, this paragraph. Okay, that's it. Very nice. So let's talk about a paragraph like this. So here we have this is the reading. This is the whole reading. Okay. So the whole reading part of it. Okay. That's paragraph 1. That's paragraph 2. And we have something that the word is highlighted. Highlighted. Okay. And okay, that's historical background. That's the first part of the paragraph. Now we have the second part, and those are the two paragraphs. Now I want to understand what is this paragraph talking about, what is this passage talking about. Okay, so we understand from historical background that this is something from history. Very nice. Now I want to know each one. So I read the first sentence and I read the last sentence. How? Like here, the epic poem, Beowulf, written in Old English, is the earliest existing dramatic whatever. Okay, what's this? In here, the first sentence that talks about poem. Very nice. Okay, Beowulf. Very nice. Now let's read the last sentence. Now, New Zealand is Denmark's largest island. The Beowulf epic contains three major tales about Beowulf and several minor tales that reflect rich Germanic or oral traditions of myth, legends, and so on. So this technically, the first paragraph is talking about Beowulf, and it says that this thing is a myth. This thing is something from history. Something is not true, a legend. Okay, so that's Beowulf. So this is the idea. So the first thing that's talking about Beowulf, that this is a myth, something from old tradition, Germanic things, Germanic oral traditions of myth, legends, and folklore. Okay, that's the first paragraph. Now let's go for the second paragraph. Read the first sentence and the last sentence. The Beowulf warriors have a foot in both the Bronze and Iron Age. Beowulf warriors. So here the second paragraph is talking about the Beowulf warriors. Now, the Northmen learned how to forge iron in about 50. Okay. So he was talking now about the Bronze and the Iron Age. Then he continued talking about some details from those ages. Okay? So this is the idea. Now let's go next. So now we understand how to read the paragraph. We read the first sentence, we read the last sentence to understand what is this paragraph talking about. So just the first sentence and the last sentence to mind map. So the idea of the reading is about mind mapping the reading. To get to know like what is this reading talking about and to know where to look. Meaning when someone asks me a question, when I've been asked a question, so I need to know where to look. So where to look, so I'll need it just from, very nice, from mind mapping that reading. Let's go next. Read fast. Now, read faster here is about what? Skimming. Very nice. Imagine that, for example, like I remember that my grandfather, he used to do this. He used to have like a newspaper, and he's not reading. He just skimming the thing to see the headlines until he finds something that interests him. Like, for example, he reads some things about politics or football or something like that. So he reads, then he found, yes, like, for example, like that person retired. So he keep and read the whole article. But he have found something that interests him. So this is the skimming. Skimming to get to know what is this talking about. So read that. Read fast. That's the read fast. Okay. Try to understand the sentences. Try to understand what is this paragraph talking about. It's not about understanding each word and each vocabulary, because like no, this is not what he wants you to do. He wants you to understand the main idea for the whole paragraph. Main idea. What is this paragraph talking about? Okay. Now, what are the things like, for example, point of view? This is the idea. Like in the reading part, we have three kind of things. We have convincing. If the writer wants to convince you with a point of view, if he's giving you options, if he's actually telling you about his point of view. So that's the thing. So we have all of these things. So we have informative paragraphs, passages, and problems, like passages about problems, passages about point of view and solving problems. Okay? Now, how about like this thing? Now, if I don't know the meaning of a word, what should I do? Now, here, the problem is not about knowing all the meanings. The problem is about solving all the questions. And solving all the questions in, like, short time. So, how to do this? Yes, understand the meaning of the sentence. Try to guess the meaning. Like, for example, you found a sentence that adds, like a word, a weird vocabulary, but you understand the general idea. Very nice. Try to understand the general idea, the meaning of the thing, and guess the meaning of that word, okay, vocabulary. Okay, so this is the idea. Try to understand the general idea. So always we keep on picking on saying this thing. We try to understand general ideas. We don't try to understand the whole thing. We understand general. Okay? Correct. So division. What is division? As we said that sometimes like this thing in this reading part, the passage part, the writer is trying to like deliver a point to tell you about something. What's that thing? His vision. Okay. So now try to vision this. How about you? Now you have to have a vision as well. What's that? Like as it's written here, the vision that allows you to see on either side of words you're focusing on with your eyes like driving a car. What's that? Like the vision. Like you have to actually where like it's the idea of where to look in the thing. As we said, first we look at the first line, then the last line, then we try to understand the general idea of everything. Context. Context, okay, context here is talking about what's inside. Meaning, okay. Now, the whole passage is like, as it's written, a combination between vocabulary, grammar, and surrounded, like, words. So vocabulary and grammar that surrounds a word. Like, for example, talking about something. When I say that this passage is talking about what? This passage is talking about like the old eras. Or the passage we see here. So the whole passage is talking about Beowulf. So it's a historical background about Beowulf. Very nice. So for example, I don't know what the meaning of epic. So I try to read the epic poem Beowulf. So I know what's the meaning of poem, so I know that he's talking about the poem. So I don't want to know the meaning of epic. Written in Old English is the earliest existing Romanic. Very nice, epic. And one of four surviving Anglo-Saxons. Okay, who are the Saxons? The Saxon is a kind of people. Okay. Now, like. I'm so sorry, not the Saxon, the kind of people, that's his name, yes, Anglo-Saxon. Because Saxon also is a kind of people, like for example, Pharaohs, like Aztecs, like Vikings, all of these. We have the Saxonian people, okay, but here Anglo-Saxon manuscript. That person used to describe poems. Although Beowulf was written by anonymous Englishmen in Old English, so it was anonymous. Anonymous, that means we don't know who wrote it, okay? The tale takes place in the part of the Scandinavia. The what Germanic tribes, okay. Tribes here talk about old ages. So technically this story is talking about history, very nice. So without reading like full details and we skip some things, we skip some words, but we understand the general idea. This is what I asked you for the week, okay? Let's go next. Use context. Use context. What's that? Okay. Now, pay attention to this. As we said, that the reading is a combination between words, vocabulary, with grammar, or surrounding the word, surrounding a topic. Surrounding something, talking about something. So, to understand that thing and to go and to repeat again that we need to understand, okay, then try to learn from it. But first try to understand it without like going for boring details. Okay? Try to understand the meaning of new vocabulary as I said and other things. Make interference. Okay. Now, in make interference here, he says, use the facts as evidence to make an interference. Now, in this reading part, he's talking about what? He's talking about like facts about Beowulf, that person. Facts about the place in there, like any place, Denmark, Netherlands, New Zealand. He's talking about the place, talking about facts about that place. And interference is what? Logical conclusion. Meaning, like for example, he might not say like directly. He might not say directly that he, okay, died when he was 30, but he might say, for example, he died in early 30s, or he died 1995. You see, he died 1995 and he was born 1965. Very nice. So he died when he was 30. That's interference. So it's a logical conclusion. That means I can count. I can actually try to measure that thing. When I think about it, he was born, yes, okay, he was born 1965. Then he died 1995. Very nice, 30 years. So that's the conclusion I get from the interviewing. Okay? So next example. He's given me an example. Okay? You may begin reading a passage about Native Americans who live on the plains. Okay? Not plain like in like places like, I'm so sorry, like land. We're talking about land. You continue reading and note that they use buffalo for food. Later you read that they use buffalo for clothing and shelter. Okay, so that's the example. So you began reading about a passage. That passage is talking about Native Americans. So who live on the plain. You continue reading it and note that they use buffaloes for food. Later you read that they use buffaloes for shelter and leather and other things. So what do you understand? Next, interference. Buffaloes were very important in the culture of Native Americans. So buffaloes were very important in the culture of Native Americans. So that's the conclusion I get. That's the idea I get after reading and interfering with that. Okay? Content words. Okay. The content words are usually nouns, verbs, or adjectives. Now, content words. What are the content words? The words that they highlight. Okay. Sometimes they ask you, what's this word talking about? What does this action refer to? That's the idea. So this is what he asked about. Okay. So they're called content words because they contain the meaning of the sentence. So for a word that he asks you about that word to get to know do you understand the sentence or not. And after knowing that you understand the sentence, he will get to know that thing, that you will get to guess the meaning, and you will maybe understand the meaning. The idea. Okay? Now, next. Can. Now we said in reading we have two kinds of skills. Skim and can. Now, skim we said we don't read for details, but scan, that my eyes are somehow, okay, you let your eyes like travel quickly over the passage to find something specific you're looking for. Meaning, it's like this. Now, when I skim reading, I read fast and I get to know what is this talking about. Now, when I scan, for example, it's like this. Now, it's asking me about buffalo. So what do? Yes, I scan the whole thing to find buffalo. Why? Because I want to answer the question. So I want to answer the question, so I need that word. So to find that word is scanning. Okay? So I'm not reading for details, I'm scanning. I'm looking for a word I want. Okay? So you find that place in the reading with that word and try to read what's around that word. Very nice. This is the idea. Go next. Now, if the question does not have a reference, like for example, arrow or shading, then you should find important content words in the question. Now, if the question does not have a reference inside the question, like for example, the words in the question are not in the reading. So, what should I do? Yes, I do something different. Now, maybe he explained the words in the reading in that question, or vice versa. The words in the reading are going to explain the question. So, explain that thing, scan the passage to get the content words. Content words like same content words. Look for synonyms. You know what are the synonyms? Like, for example, let's say wonderful, terrific, fabulous, fantastic. All of these are synonyms to the same thing. So that's the meaning of synonyms. Okay, so synonyms. Now, so look for synonyms in the content words. Look for words are equal to the same word in the passage. Like, for example, in the question he said, let's say, for example, a hat. So the question he asked about hat, but in that reading, it does not have the word hat, but you have cap. See? So there is a... Now, the theme here, scan the passage for the same content words or synonyms. It's the same idea. When you look in the passage for words like that equal to each other, that will give you like a good idea about what you're up against. Finally, read those specific sentences carefully. Now, try to read the sentences carefully and try to understand the general idea and to understand the meaning. Okay, then choose the answer that corresponds to the meaning of the sentence you've read. Now, choose the answer that is related to the meaning you've read. So this is the idea. Okay, so next. Now, your mind, okay. Now, what is he saying? Now, you have to find a way to connect all the information in a passage. Meaning, for example, in the beginning he might talk about something. At the end, he might talk about a period related to that thing. So you have to know how to connect everything, connect the details. So stay connected in that reading, okay? Don't ever try to read and try like just read without a purpose, reading each paragraph like alone, individually. No, try to connect all of them. Why did he say this here? Why did he say this there? And so on. Sometimes it happens when a word or a phrase refers back to the previous point in the passage. Yes, that happens. That a word or a phrase refers back to the previous point in the passage. Okay? Pay attention to this. Now, one question also required you insert a sentence in the most logical place in it. Now, so when I try to insert a sentence, and we get to know that today, inshallah, we're going to talk about it. One of the questions is, he gives me a sentence and he asks me, where is the best place for this sentence? I have to think again and again and again. Where suppose he to go? Where suppose this sentence to go? So this is the idea. I keep on thinking. Yes. So how to find a place? I have to understand and connect the idea. Okay. Find references and insert sentences. That's always the same. Now, to summarize all of these things, now because this was a recap after Mr. Mithat's explanation. So, take the main idea and list the main points. This is in the reading. So, in the reading, I say the main idea and list something. Now, let's watch this video that will sum up what we said here. Okay, let's watch.